The Veve market is tanking right now, and that does mean that there's some deals in the market that are worth paying attention to and some reasons why. So in this video, we're going to look at the market and try to understand a little bit more about the opportunities that could be showing themselves as of right now that we may not be paying attention to. So let's get started. Welcome in everyone, my name is Andy and I appreciate you taking some time out of your day to come and watch this video on the channel. Just before we get going, if you are enjoying the content and you want to support me further, you can hit that subscribe button, and if you want to support me even further than that, you can join the membership. Okay, so the market has dipped quite significantly and there's still some people panicking, and I totally understand that. I'm trying to make these videos to help probably ease your panic a little bit further, and that's why I may be reiterating some things here and there. But what I also get is when it comes to financial investments, most people get in on the time of euphoria, and there was probably a lot of new users who came in mid-January when everything was the highest that it's ever been at. What I would like you to take note of right now is that for any future investment that you do, whenever you see all the good news happening, it's more likely not the best time to get in. At these points, people are in that euphoria stage, they're discussing why things will always climb and they'll never fall again, and it's just a case of psychology. Now, it's not to say that I'm not at fault to that as well. I made videos during the euphoric time discussing how I don't believe some of these things will reach lower than they ever have been before. However, still to this day, especially the ones that I discussed when it came to the quote-unquote grails, then it is the case. Todd McFarlane, although has went down significantly, is still not what he was sitting at last year. I think zooming out on these pictures is best to understand when we come into long-term investments, but for those of you who have just got in, it's going to be quite a hard time because you're now holding the bag on something you may have just purchased in the euphoric time. You're now wondering what it is best to do with your investment. So I'm going to try to give you a little bit more insight to how the market moves, take advantage of the next time that this will occur so that you're not the one holding the bag, but the one actually profiting from this. There's a variety of reasons why markets dip, and it's not one sole reason. Sometimes there can be, but more often or not, there's a bunch of stuff. MTL news delays, there could be OMI token utility delays, staking delays, things on the overall cryptocurrency and NFT markets, world politics, there really is a lot more to price fluctuations than people think. They create sell pressures, tax season comes around, there's sell walls, whales getting out, there really is a lot of things to consider when it comes to this. So please don't ever think that there's just one sole reason that markets are shifting or markets are going in certain ways. There's often quite a lot of reasons that things happen and things actually occur. There's also something else I want to reiterate when it comes to the Veve market right now. If we're taking something like the Bored Ape Yacht Club on OpenSea and we're talking about NFTs, someone has to have a considerable amount of money in order to buy quite a high percentage of that market share now. However, on Veve, there's stuff that are below 20 gems, 30 gems, 40 gems, and for someone with a lot of money, that doesn't actually take them a lot of time to eat up a lot of the supply that's actually there, which can cause the markets to shift instantly if they decide to make that decision. So sometimes, especially in the euphoric times, you see these massive whales shifting the market like no tomorrow. So when they shift the market and the average consumer buys in at the higher points after they've shifted the market and then the market starts to retract, those whales can still get in because they have more money than an average consumer. But the average consumer panics because they've spent quite a lot of money on these things that have run up and are now running back down, therefore sell off because of panic and FOMO. This is where it can cause even further fluctuations because then they're selling off, more people are selling off, more people are panicking, and so much more. If you're in here for the long run, then understand that market fluctuations are always going to be a part of it. I've had a lot of conversation with people who said that Veve and cryptocurrency in itself is their first ever financial investment, which is going to be a very scary thing to do. I would recommend learning more about the financial sector in general, about property, about stocks, and you're going to be able to see the big differences that these often hold with sort of trusted methods when it comes to financial investment rather than something like NFTs, and why these fluctuations make sense because of this factor. Two things I'm going to focus on today, and the second one that we're going to talk about isn't actually going to be something that I've looked at just yet. I want to see if my theory is true in regards to it. But before that, the first one is to always pay attention to what has the strong fundamentals. Now, what I mean by this is that when things are released on Veve, there's often hype for certain things more than others. If we take the James Bond poster that was released recently, for example, there really wasn't that much hype behind it. We've saw 2D posters before, we've saw James Bond, the movie itself wasn't incredible, but it wasn't terrible, and therefore it might not have the same fan base as maybe getting something like the Golden Gun or the DB9 that we've saw in James Bond in the past. This doesn't really match up the same way. Therefore, the fundamentals of it, with the edition size, the price of it, the way people treat it, the community behind it, and more, sort of determine what this price may actually be. That price is not that great. Now, if we are looking from an investment standpoint, then we do have to look at the fundamentals of an investment and of the collectible. So if we compare it to the likes of the Partner statue or Todd McFarlane Batman, these communities behind them that drive them to where they are at is one of the main reasons that they stay at this price. What I've discussed before is that when big celebrities are wanting to come into this space, they're going to want to find what is going to make the most impact for me as an influencer, as a content creator, when I get in here. That will be what people classify as grails. Now, what classifies as a grail differs for everyone, but from what I've found anyway, it's what is able to stand a better test of time when markets are down, and what is able to hold its place when the community is truly behind it. If I took something like the James Bond poster that was recently announced and released, there really isn't the same community behind it, not only because of the backstory of it, but its significance and what part it plays in Veve's whole ecosystem, or NFTs in general. Partner statue is the first time, and probably the last time, we'll ever see Walt Disney on an NFT, as well as having the significance of Disney, what it means as a company, and Mickey's first ever appearance. And when we look at Todd McFarlane Batman, we're looking at the first ever collectible on Veve, the first ever Batman on Veve, the first ever Batman in general in NFT format, and done by a massive artist known as Todd McFarlane. All of these put together create strong fundamentals for what these products are. And it's not to say that they definitely cannot get hit during the all-time highs, because more often or not, things do retract the same way. But some others retract further. Some massive retractions in regards to some of the products that went significantly higher during this euphoric stage in January, purely because they probably don't have that strong of a fundamental base, and therefore are quite easy to sell off to potentially look for other things. Although these things are dipping, you have to think about the already existing fan base. There are going to be less or more Disney fans that come onto this space as we go over time. What is really going to make the biggest impact on this app? What are the companies going to look at, and what are these influencers going to look at that really stands out as we are at the top of the top? Something like a Marvel Mighty might not really classify as that, but first appearing Spider-Man might. Again, we've not really defined exactly what a blue chip or a grail is on the app, and sort of just guess from our own understanding. We don't have a list and this is exactly it, but I think if we just generally look at it, we can kind of understand what is better than others. So yes, as of right now, if you don't have the gems to spend, that's fine, I get it. Buying grails is quite hard and it costs quite a lot of money even when everything else is down, and you maybe don't want to sell off at the all-time low. But what I want you to take note of is these retractions right now. What is holding better than others? What is able to stand a better test of time in a market that's dipping significantly, where there's a lot of FUD being created, there's a lot of people skeptical on what Veve is as a company, and therefore you're going to be able to better understand where to take your advantages next time, where to take your profits and when, and how to alter your plan to make sure that you don't get burnt in a time like this. There's another thing that I think plays quite an important part, and that is length of time that it's been out. So if we take the golden moments, for example, when it comes to Donald Duck and Lady and the Tramp, they've not been out for that long, meaning the highest amount of listings that they have is still quite on an early stage. What we see usually over time is that as more demand comes in, supply lowers. It's just supply and demand, basic economics. So with the Partner statue, for example, or Todd McFarlane Batman, they've been out for a little while longer now, meaning their supply has decreased and their prices slowly went up as more people are getting in and are not willing to sell even during the downturns. This means you're going to have more unique holders who are stronger minded when it comes to what they want to hold and why. It's not a bad thing if you sell off at a low, but it's just most likely you're going to be selling off to someone who has stronger fundamentals in that collectible themselves, therefore lowering the max number of listings that will ever be up for a collectible. Lady and the Tramp and Donald Duck right now still have quite a lot of listings because they've recently been announced. But Todd McFarlane being out at the end of 2020, there's now less and less listings of him, meaning his price fluctuations can drastically shift quite quickly if there's a few purchases, as well as takes more to drive the price down to what people believe it should be at. Because there's people who have been in here for a while and understand the significance of Todd, maybe seeing it up at 14k was just too high for them, but down at 8 is exactly where they're wanting it to be. I'm going to upload this video either way, whether I'm right or wrong, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to look at the market listings on Ecomi Wiki. And what I'm looking to see is that the ones that have took the biggest dip have a lot more listings coming onto the market. But the ones that I believe are going to hold the better test of time and have got a lot of room to grow in the future are not going to see massive shifts in market listings. There's going to be a drive down in price, but the market listings are going to sort of stay the same, showing me that there are people buying into these consistently as the price is going down, as people are finding that those deals are good enough for them to actually purchase. So let's have a look at it and see if the theory plays any role in this. Now, back on the euphoric stage in January or mid-January, we saw Todd reaching a price of around 13,400 with a total of about 169 listings. And of course, as he reached this high, people sold off in order to take that, meaning more listings came onto the market, sitting at around 200. But if we come closer to where we're at right now, and the consistent dip that we've been seeing, the listings have actually started to go down, even though the price is going down as well. Now, usually what happens when it comes to things that are selling off is listings go up as price goes down, because there's more people willing to sell it off at that time. So what this is showing me is that even though the price is going down here, people are still buying in at these prices. People are wanting to see what they reach in the lows that they can reach so that they can actually get in at the price they've been looking for quite a while. So now that we're seeing Todd lowering from 11k sitting at 204 listings all the way down to 6,795 with 188 listings, it's shown me that people are buying into these and are actually still looking at them as ones that they want to hold. So if we go to, say, Captain America's Ultra Rare here, we can see that in mid-January, we had found his price reaching a top of near enough 2,000 with about 87 listings. But now we see his price lowering way down to 649 with 100 listings. So the listings are going up as the price drives down, something that we often see when it comes to this. So for me personally, this does show that more people are willing to sell this off at cheaper and are not buying in at the same rate that they find these deals coming in at, because maybe Captain America's Ultra Rare doesn't have the same fundamentals as something like Todd. Let's look at one I've liked for a while when it comes to Elsa as well. We'll try to get a few of these just to see if the theory plays any role in this and if there's maybe some things we can learn from it. So Elsa in mid-January was sitting around 4,250. That was our all-time high. And we saw the listings be at around 218, 256, round about this area anyway. So if we're taking the same basis of Todd McFarlane, what we should see here, drive down in price and also a same sort of rundown of the total listings. Whereas if it doesn't have the same fundamentals, we should see an increase in total listings and a decrease in price. So let's have a look at February and what we're seeing right now. So what we found was that during this time and this quite significant drop we've had, she's went down from 4,190 to around 2,000 gems, with listings actually going down to 245, compared to the listings in the mid-January of about 300 to 250 listings. So although her price is driving down, her listings aren't actually going up as much as they should be. This is showing me that people are buying into this stuff even as the price is driving down. They're seeing the deals now and they want to get into them. And what I actually suspect happening over the next few days is this price to level out and listings continuing to sort of lower over the next coming days. Again, the examples I'm trying to give here aren't going to be dead set in stone. But what I am trying to get you to do is think more about the market on just a general basis. When market price goes down, listings often go up purely because more people are wanting to sell off. So even if we take a random one with the classic cartoon edition from Decon, we can see that in mid-January, the listings were around 219. But now, even with this dip in price from 55 or 50 all the way down to 28, listings have actually went up and stayed up. So for the likes of commons, they often take quite a rise in listings and a decrease in price, whereas things that maybe have more fundamentals behind them actually manage to lower in price, but also lower and stay lower in listings. And this to me is showing that people are still buying in when it comes to these, as they're allowing those who are selling off for cheaper to then buy into ones who believe that this is going to hold more significance over the long run. Now, this is just an observation I wanted to give to you. Obviously, it's not 100% dead set in stone. It doesn't happen the same way for every single one, because you've got to remember that each collectible has a different fan fan base to it. Each collectible has different people involved, and as we mentioned before, there's certain whales are in certain collectibles as well, buy up significant amounts when prices actually lower. It's hard to get a dead set conclusion on it, but I just wanted to put it onto your brain at least, for you to look at it further, to try to understand it a little bit more, and maybe start paying attention to the total listings, pricing, and why those things match up a little bit more over the long run. But I'd love to hear your thoughts on what you're doing with the market at the moment. Are you just sitting back and watching it and seeing how it goes, or are you a little bit worried with where the market is moving? Be sure to let me know down below. I know the video on the screen and it will be something you'll love to watch. Have a fantastic day.